Hello folks, and welcome to yet another analog episode of the Audiophile Man. And what have we got for you this time around? Well, something a little bit different. We're going to be talking about a company, a much loved, a beloved turntable company, Dual from Germany. And if you are one of my German friends, yes, I realize that the company's name probably should be spelt, or rather pronounced, Dual. But I'm an ignorant Englishman, so you're going to have to make do with the name I was brought up on in this country, Dual. I apologize for the constant mistakes I will be making. Anyway, Dual, as a company, has been the subject of rumour, misinformation, and many urban legends, which has not exactly helped the brand as a whole in terms of its legacy or going forward. To put the Dual history in proper order, well, that would probably take a 4-hour video, and I have 10 minutes. So let me organize the salient points, bring a smidgen of clarity to the story, tell you the who's, the what's, and the where's, and also let you know what Dual is doing right now. And then I'll talk about tomorrow. Now, Dual's engineering history ranges right back to the beginning of the 20th century, where it used to make precision tools for the local clockwork industry and parts of the earlier gramophones too. For example, the company created their own motors for gramophones back in the late 20s and 30s. It was in the 30s actually that Dual created its very first turntable, and just as they were getting going, World War II occurred, placing the company on hiatus all the way through to 1949. But even the World War couldn't hold back Dual. They would become very quickly the largest supplier of turntables in Europe. Innovations would quickly follow. Stereo sound was addressed in 1958. Arguably, the company's first hi-fi standard turntable occurred around that time with the 1009 model. During the 60s, Dual saw the introduction of silicon-damped tone arm lifts, quite a rarity at the time, lightweight head shells, ditto, and notably a relatively sophisticated anti-skating system, which was based on springs. The common method of anti-skating back then was probably a weights system. When the 70s hit, Dual wasn't just offering turntables, oh no, they were selling a whole heap of other kinds of hi-fi, amplifiers, speakers, and more. The 701 turntable appeared around this time and became the very first direct drive turntable produced in Europe. More turntables appeared alongside additional equipment, hi-fi like the C901 cassette deck. Once the 80s began, so did the trouble. Dual was feeling the pressure from Japan, who were on the rise as an industrial powerhouse. Prices for Japanese equipment were much lower for similar quality Dual products sold in Europe. Sound familiar? And that continued until Dual couldn't stand the competition and they went bankrupt in 1981. In 1982, the French tech company Thomson bought Dual. Thus, Dual was able to continue producing hi-fi equipment for now, but not for long, because just 5 years later, Dual was sold all over again, this time to a German tech company called Schneider. Schneider specialized in, how would you put this, low-cost mass market equipment, kind of the Amstrad of the German market, you might say. At that point, the Dual name began to be watered down, sometimes appearing on lifestyle goods such as TV sets. By 1993, Dual were in trouble all over again. The factory was moved to another building in the same town, where a local contractor, Alfred, was allowed to assemble Dual turntables. Then we come to 2002, and Schneider itself closed down. Alfred was given the rights to sell and market turntables as part of a license agreement, so that continued. And that continued for the next few years. And so did chaos, absolute chaos. For a period of 5 years, numerous companies took control of Joule, and then they in themselves went bankrupt. And that continued until 2007. At that point, Fehrenbacher was still around. They became a license taker, not a license holder, a license taker, in that the company was allowed to use the Joule name, but not much else. The owner of the actual name, the licensor, was a company called DGC, which stood for Joule Group of Companies. Now, DGC wasn't really interested in turntables at all, so Alfred Fehrenbacher handled that side of affairs. And that situation kind of stumbled along until 2017. Someone was waiting for a knight in shining armour, and his name was Dr. Joseph Zellner, who was involved in Joule back in the early 90s. So this guy had plenty of experience with the company. He actually bought DGC, which owned those licenses. The actual company, DGC, still was packed full of old Joule employees, I have to add. So all those old employees went to work for Zellner instead. The actual deal, that was cemented in 2020. So yes, we had a brand new company called Joule, packed with original employees. But there's a wrinkle. There's always a wrinkle in hi-fi, and the wrinkle is this. Joule, as Joule is named, owns the Joule name in Europe. There is a Korean company. Remember I mentioned the chaos earlier on? Well, there is a Korean company called Namsong. Not Samsung, but Namsong. And they own the Joule name in the USA and Asia. Thing is, Namsong has absolutely no interest in hi-fi and absolutely no interest in Joule turntables. In fact, rather oddly, they slap the Joule name on things like marine technology. Yes, marine technology. So they are not a hi-fi outfit at all, which is why Joule in Europe owns the license to sell turntables all over the world. Hi-fi brands and licenses. Truly complicated affairs. So who and what is the newly minted Joule? Well, you could say that the engineering heart of the new Joule is one Alfred Langer. He is a man who is such a fan of Joule, he actually bought up all of the original Joule turntable spare parts and now sells them via his own website called, rather aptly, Joule Fred. So, if you have an original Joule turntable and you're looking for spare parts, Alfred Langer, the current engineer at Joule, he is your man, and I will put a link below to his website. I can go right now. They're all on holiday, so you'll probably get a "we're on holiday" message. End of May. End of May. That's the time to go look. Anyway, Mr. Langer, he has been a busy guy. For example, he has designed, for the current incarnation of Joule, he has designed and produced a brand new quartz-controlled direct drive system for Joule. Hence, the current Joule turntable lineup are basically Langer's designs. Langer actually prototypes each design himself. He builds the turntable himself in-house to make sure he's happy with each feature. Then he approaches a local factory in Germany with a CNC machine, and he produces a small run of 5 or so units. They are all then tested and they're sent to the factory, and the final tweaks are worked out between Langer and the factory, and then production commences. And the factory, well, Joule works with a company from Thailand who owns a factory in China. Joule has been working with this company since the 90s, so they know each other and they trust each other. Question is, I can hear some of you now, why doesn't Joule manufacture in Germany? Well, it wanted to. Oh, it wanted to. Joule actually originally wanted to manufacture all their turntables in Germany, but the costs were just too high. In fact, when Joule began developing this current range, the quotes from Germany were double those from the Chinese factory, and for, says Joule, the same standard of work. That is, according to Joule, the finished product from the Chinese factory and those from the German factory were exactly the same quality. Now, well, prices have moved even higher, so that gap is even higher. Now look, on your behalf, I did push Dual on potential quality concerns that some customers or potential customers may still have, and Dual directed me to a German pressing plant called Rand Muzik. Rand Muzik, who've been going for about 20 years at this point, they use a current Dual automatic turntable as part of their quality control department to check new pressings. So every time they do a new pressing, they'll put a sample of the pressing on this turntable and they'll play both sides just to see if the pressing is fine. The turntable Rand Muzik selected was a CS429 automatic turntable. This thing is in operation every single day. Now, Rand Muzik recently declared that in a period of 3 years, their dual CS429 automatic turntable has thus far tested both sides of 12,000 LPs. That is 24,000 sides in all, and the 429 apparently still works perfectly. Which reminds me, and this kind of caught my eye and maybe is indicative of the company, the brand new Dual as a whole. Now, turntables, as you know, are full of moving parts, and actually nothing moves around as much during play in your hi-fi as a turntable. There are more points of failure on a turntable than anything else in your system. Now, unlike some turntable companies out there that kind of give you half a warranty covering parts defects only, but they ignore the wear and tear, or there may be companies out there who don't even have an engineer on site like Mr. Langer. Dual, on the other hand, provides a usable 5-year warranty. That is, the warranty covers all parts, even moving parts, except for the belt and except for the stylus, which I would call reasonable, personally. Everything else is covered by the warranty. Even the hinges on the lid are covered by this warranty. And to my mind, that's a proper warranty. So where does that leave us? Well, Dual as a company has risen to glory, collapsed into a sea of turmoil, and looks now to be once more rising to glory again, complete with a German location, German owners, German engineering, and a German staff. Now, you might still question the actual production qualities of the final product, and that's why I'm going to review one. I'm going to review a Dual turntable, one of the new batch, tomorrow on this channel. I'm going to be looking at the CS618Q. Stay tuned for that, and I'll give you my thoughts on this latest example of the new generation of Dual turntables. And that's your lot, folks. Thanks very much for staying to the end of this slightly different video. Hope you liked it, and if you do, I might even do some more along this kind of lines, maybe, possibly. So I'll be back tomorrow with a turntable review. Until then, down below, check out some of the links I mentioned, Alfred Langer's website being one of them. I'll put a link to the Dual website, to my own links, Facebook group, my own Facebook group, which you're welcome to join. I have one of those, rather large website. Again, I'll put a link to that. You can check that out. My Patreon page too has all kinds of stuff, videos, text-based stuff, tour guides. What have we got? Oh, we've got the Hi-Fi News, etc. exclusive video, of course. Check all that too. Links down below. I will see you tomorrow, and I hope to have your company then. Until then, folks, bye-bye for now.